Good morning. My name is Aaron, and I am one of the pastors here. All of those things are true. Jason's not lying to you. I am here to talk to you this morning, as we have for the past several weeks, about our Next Step 2.0 campaign. And that Next Step campaign helps us grow our mission and ministry in a couple of different ways. It's one campaign. It has two main steps. Those steps have phases. Here's what that actually looks like. Step one, we continue to pay the mortgage on the Cole Community Center, which is open 7 days a week to our community, to our neighborhood, to literally thousands of people every week who get to interact with us and be around people who believe the good news that God's mind about them is made up, and the news is good. That mortgage payment is about $7,000 a month. That doesn't come out of our regular church budget, which means we can use more of our regular church budget to do ministry in our neighborhood, in our city, in Toronto, in Zambia, and around the world. Now, we are making progress, and we'll talk about that in a minute. And also, everything beyond $7,000 a month that is pledged to the Next Step campaign goes into savings, which we use to help continue renovations in the children's area. And speaking of which, J.R. Emrich, if you would, please go ahead and come up. J.R. is going to be our resident expert. These are the places where we are spending that money, and security and cosmetic renovations is where we are now. Sometimes that is what you might think of, and sometimes it's unexpected. So, J.R., you are an OKC First institution. Your name is on the basketball court in the Cole Center. You're a board member. You're the chairman of the Ministry Resources Committee, which is sort of when things in the building do fall apart, JR helps us figure out how to put them back together again. It's like Humpty Dumpty, only with broken windows. You are also, though, in addition to those things, founder of Re-Roof America, and you are a professional maintenance and preventative maintenance, particularly when it comes to roofs guy. So, our biggest Next Step expenditure for the children's area so far has actually been replacing the roof on the children's area. Why was that so important to do that before we get into some of the other nuts and bolts of the renovations we want to make? Why do we have to do that first? And how big was the problem?
So, Aaron, our church building is made up of several different roof sections.
They
were roofed at different times.
Many different times.
The roof section on the children's department was last roofed in 1997.
I was 14.
That roof in 97 had a life expectancy of 15 years, and we got 23 years out of it.
Well, we're exceptional in many ways.
But the roof was leaking, and every time it rained, had guys out here fixing leaks, and so it didn't make sense to spend money on new carpet, new remodeling, and new paint, and the roof leaked. So we had to do the roof first.
And we want to move walls. We want to install security doors. We want to do all kinds of things back there. And JR was the voice of, listen, if the roof leaks, we have a bigger problem, and none of that makes sense. So that's been our first major expenditure. We've done other things as well, including buying the plans for all the stuff we get to do now that the roof doesn't leak anymore. Now, you do not have young children, and you do not live in our neighborhood, but you and your family continue to be really invested in the life of OKC First and of the Cole Center. Why is that? Why is that so important to you, even though you and your family don't benefit from it directly?
Aaron, I do have 8 grandkids.
Well, sure, and we'll take them all.
The Cole Center houses several different ministries of our church. And investing in the lives of our neighbors, investing in the lives of our children, is part of our church ministry. I would say that when we give our tithe to the church, we're giving out of obedience back to God, and out of gratefulness, it's an act of worship. When we give beyond our tithe, when we give our pledges and our money to support the Cole Center and to the children's department, it is also an act of worship, and we're making an investment in those children and making an investment in those people that live in neighborhoods around our church.
JR, that is something that has been a part of the heartbeat of OKC First for a really long time, that we especially invest in young families and we especially invest in our neighborhood. Why has that mattered so much to us historically and now? Why is that part of who we are?
So the demographics of our church are such that we have more young families with children than any other group. Before the coronavirus, our children's department was bursting at the seams. Our children deserve ample classrooms. They deserve security, controlled entrances and exits to make things secure. It is the legacy of OKC First to invest in our children. It's always been the legacy of OKC First to invest in children. And so that is one of the reasons it's so important to continue that legacy and to invest in the lives of our children.
Ladies and gentlemen, J.R. Emrich.